about debt? Are they worried about corruption? What is it?
Well, Kenyans are worried about the cost of living being able to meet their day-to-day basic needs. We see that many Kenyans are saying that they still go to bed hungry. You know, like 43% are saying there are days when they have had to go to bed hungry. So that shows you that the country's economic direction is actually a worry for them. And the fact that unemployment remains a significant issue for Kenyan households as one of the top things that is a challenge. So this is justified, you know, that if we don't have jobs, and when we have jobs, they are probably jobs that are paying poverty wages, you know. So that says something that the country's economic direction is not good. As expressed by citizens. Okay.
Your report also revealed that 33% report that their income is enough to meet their daily basic needs. Basically, 67% have to supplement their income to make ends meet every month. Yes. How are they doing this? What are their options?
There are two main things Kenyans have to do. The 67% that are finding it difficult to meet their basic needs. Cutting down on certain items, and these items could actually be essential items, which means if they have to buy food, it will probably not be as of good nutrition. And borrowing, you know, from either their colleagues, their friends, their family, from banks, from M-Pesa. You know, we've seen that Kenyans are actually heavy on borrowing in terms even not just for airtime. They are borrowing from M-Shwari, they are borrowing from all these avenues that are available to them. And thanks to this mobile money access, but it is an indication, you know, somebody could look at it in a different perspective, but it is an indication of the suffering that many Kenyans across the country have to go through.
Okay. And when you talk about financial inclusion, I also want to find out from you, who can use this survey and for what purposes?
Well, this survey is very timely for the government, policymakers in this country, because that is our main target. We target policymakers, we target financial institutions, all the banks in the country. A central bank needs to look at this, and of course, county governments also need to look at it in terms of what they can do to uplift the livelihoods within the country or the counties that they serve.
Okay. Yeah. We've talked about what part of your report focuses on poverty in the country. Let's talk about financial inclusion briefly. Just under 50% of the population has a bank account of those you polled.
Yes.
What did the other, who I guess are the majority, who do not have bank accounts, say as to why they do not? Did they give you a reason?
The main reason they gave is that there is no money to keep there. There's no money that they're expecting. So it is an indication that for you to have a bank account, you are expecting to have money either coming through it for you to be able to access it. So the other half is actually saying there is no money coming in. So which means they're not in any formal employment. That is one of the indications. So it says a lot about that bit of the population. And but yet, on the flip side, we have 76% accessing money
mobile money. That's what I was coming to.
Which means that there are other certain barriers that the banks could be posing to them, you know, either in terms of expenses, charges, or just the perception that banking is expensive. But if I have a small business and I can take care of this through the mobile money services, then it is actually more convenient. So the banks need to learn from what the mobile money services have done, if at all they are going to be able to penetrate the rest of the population, the more than half of the population.
Mobile money clearly is the big winner here.
Yeah, of course, accessibility, the efficiency that comes with
the fact that you can just get access from your phone.
And citizens have given reasons as to whether they are happy with the services or they receive through mobile money, as you see on page, on the last page, you know, like of just about 20% are probably unhappy. Yeah, so. But that's just not happy because they think it's a bad thing. They think it's so cheap that they may sometimes just feel like doubting the quality of services they're receiving. But the rest are extremely satisfied.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. You also got your respondents to talk a little bit about food security.
Yes.
Some of them say they feel it has improved since 2016.
Yeah.
Why do those who you polled say this? How are they comparing 2016 to 2017? For you know, in the media we've talked about drought. Last year, this year as well, yet they feel that they have better access to food than 2 years ago?
Actually, we thought about it and we actually thought they would express, they would have different views.
Yes.
But when we think about it logically, we realize that the situation was worse in 2016. And, you know, when you go through an experience as a household, you start making decisions. You start having strategies that could help you manage the situation better in the coming year. So what we probably might have seen is households might have decided to do things in a different way, but that does not necessarily mean that they did not suffer. You know, instead of probably taking a child to a private school, they probably got the kid to a public school and then decided that this money, we will use it. We'll be saving the money that we are spending on school fees for food in the coming year because things are getting worse.
Okay.
So that's why they were probably expressing
the view. Adapting.
Yeah, it's an adaptation, but unfortunately not a good adaptation or not a good measure to for adapting. So the other thing we suspect is the fact that between May and December 31, last year, we see that the price of maize flour was subsidized by government. And we did this survey at a time when these prices were actually low.
You're right.
And then, of course, in certain areas, the yield that was produced last year compared to 2016 might have been slightly better. So those are the three main factors that may have made them express a different view compared to 2016.
And again, these views were, you're comparing them with what you got in 2016. That's a follow-up of a survey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about corruption. Kenyans are dissatisfied with the direction, I guess, of the government or of our nation in fighting corruption. What would they like to see? What markers did you use to gauge their dissatisfaction with corruption? Did you simply ask them, are you happy with the way corruption is being fought, or were you able to break it down into specific aspects of our economy or state of life?
Well, in a national survey like this one, it's so hard to start asking particular questions.
Like economic fraud, vis-a-vis,
no,
you're not able to get into those details.
You can actually just generalize the question. So how satisfied are you with the country's direction in the following areas? You know, how the economy is being managed, how corruption is being fought in government, how security is, the security situation in the country, and then, of course, the creation of job opportunities. So those are the four main areas that we have been tracking from 2015. And we see that in terms of managing the economy, things was completely I mean, the expression of this was average in 2016. In August 2016, it was 53% dissatisfied. Then in December 2016, 55%. Then what we see in June and October 2017 is that more citizens were of the view, majority, 85%, 82% in those two different months, expressing the dissatisfaction.
With the fight against corruption.
The economy. And then in corruption, again, we see that in 2016, August, 53%. And then in December 2016, 52%. But
Fantastic.
what we see in June and October 2017, 73 and 75% respectively. So the dissatisfaction level rose significantly.
Okay.
Yes.
We have to stop this discussion here. Fascinating indeed, and a lot of insights to where we are as a society. I wanted to get into who you polled, where you got the data from, but we actually don't have time.
Just to mention, our data and everything else, the methodology is available online. We are an open data organization. Yes. Tuaweza.org.
ORG?
Yes, all the data is available. And everything else you might want to understand, including the methodology or the technical approach.
Thank you so much, Victor Rateng, Senior Program Officer, Tuaweza East Africa, for finding time to be here with us today. Before we wrap up the English edition of Citizen Extra, let's take you to Kisumu County now to get a quick interview with former Ugenya Member of Parliament, David Ochieng. The court has ruled in his favor today by nullifying the